everybody to Blerdlines. This is your man Cam. With me, as always, is
the other Cam. No nickname this time.
as well as.
Well, fine. I'm not going to do a nickname either. It's Josh. Fine.
And to complete the circle.
I'm always the professor. I don't know what those guys are talking about. I'm the professor every day and always.
And we are here back talking The Witcher Season 4, the Cavill-less Witcher. But before we get in, like, subscribe, tell a friend, share. See, I did it early, guys. I'm gonna get it. But yeah, so per Netflix rules, all the episodes dropped. D'Angelo, who is our resident Witcher lore person, read the books, played the video game. Cam's also played the video game. I've not finished it. I got my ass whipped plenty of times.
It is a challenging game.
Yeah, man, look, but it's funny. It's so good. Two, it's not even, I don't want to say so old, but it still holds up. If you start playing right now, you'll still have a good experience of it. And so, but anyways, we now have Baby Hemsworth in the main role now as Geralt. I said Geralt. And this is more like D. You told me this is like the pre-ultimate part of the story right now that we're leading to.
Yes. So they renew the series or the season series for a fifth and final season. So this one was covering the I believe the fourth book. It's called Baptism by Fire. Baptism of Fire. Yeah, that's the third book. And so they have two more, but I guess they're going to combine the Lady of the Lake and the Tower of Swallows together. But they have deviated quite a bit, and so it's going to be interesting how they finish it up. So, but yeah, this was the first time that we got to see Liam Hemsworth as Geralt of Rivia, and one of the things that they did that was interesting, and I know a lot of people I saw online didn't like it, but I thought it was a clever thing. They redid all of the key scenes from the first three seasons with Hemsworth in the role. They didn't go too far into it. Like it's like a montage, obviously. But he's there. And I think what it does is it kind of orients you to the overarching story with him in mind. And again, if you enter in as an audience member with an open mind and it's like, you've been following the story, and here is where it's picking up. And now it's just got Liam Hemsworth. It was a good structural plot or visual tactic for them to use. And so, that was a good thing. I don't, from the first episode, it seemed like they were trying to quickly move past Henry Cavill. And I know a lot of people are upset about it. I was reading a lot of the comments online. A lot of people just want to accept Hemsworth. But here's the thing. Geralt of Rivia is not that complex of a character to play. He does have layers in that the way that Cavill, because people were saying, Cavill was more, Geralt is quiet, is sort of quiet rage and, grunting and things like that. And I don't know if that's entirely true. And I wonder if those people have actually read the books because Geralt is very emo in the books, especially with Yennefer. And when he loses Ciri, he's very crazed after he loses Ciri, and especially after after Vilgefortz kicks him, beats him down, because that's like the first time that he actually loses a fight, which is the whole reason why he has to be taken to the Brokilon Forest and the Dryads use their waters to heal him. And it takes them and the combination of Triss and Yennefer's magic in order to get them whole again. But then after that, they go on the sort of classic fantasy adventure where he picks up all of these eclectic fantasy characters along the way. There's the dwarves, there's the gnome, and then we have Regis, who is portrayed by Lawrence Fishburne in the TV series.
And I think that what I liked about it was, and it was interesting to see it because I think the choice of swapping him out for all those moments, you're right. It definitely, because what I normally do is like, I'll usually watch the ending episode or whatever the previous season is so I can hop into the next one. So at least have a little bit of a grounding. And it actually wasn't that jarring to go from season 3 to 4. And then specifically because they redid those scenes. So then you're kind of like, oh, all right, cool. I'm kind of in it. And then now you're already there. And it was a little bit easier to kind of go. You miss Cavill? Yes, 100%. But at the same time, it's not a bad thing. It almost felt like a Spider-Man. Oh, it's a new Spider-Man. Cool.
So what was everybody's overall impression? I'm not caught up, so I'm sort
let me say this before we get into that. Is it me, or they did not show his face in the opening montage until the actual current timeline of Geralt's adventure started? Because if I recall, I didn't see his face at all in that montage sequence of him. It was just this hidden, and I was like, okay, maybe are they using old footage, or is it really?
I thought at the beginning he does, when in the Kikimora scene, he does turn all the way around.
Well,
or at least eventually.
Yeah. I think that at the end, but before that, he had other scenes. They never showed his face. It was just his back.
No, you're right. I think that was the whole point, was that they were going for a kind of reveal in that when we finally see him with the Kikimora, that's the fullness of that, where we're seeing Geralt from the first time all over again. And literally for the first time all over again.
And correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah. Is it me, or is this season more violent and gory than the previous seasons? I felt like
that would track.
Yeah, that would track. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying it feels like the show has got a little bit more upfront with the core and gore and violent nature of Geralt of Rivia when he slays humans or monsters or one of the same, But I was going to say, it didn't bother me seeing Hemsworth in the role for the episodes I've watched. Again, I personally think because we have an affinity towards Cavill, because he's kind of like us, a nerd, kind of like he's into it. He's Superman, kind of got dirty. There's a lot of things I think played a part in why we're so upset. Because
he read the book.
He read again. He's a fan.
He played the game. He's right. He's like you said. He's like us.
Yeah. So I think more so, fans outside looking in think he's got done dirty. And to be truthful, he didn't. But in a sense, because he left the role, he made a choice. But I don't think that if there's a drop off, it's not that big of a deal because, like you said, the character of Geralt of Rivia, it's not hard to display those emotions. But I also agree with you, D'Angelo. He does display those emotions, especially I haven't read all the books, but I do see him being vulnerable, especially with his loss to Vilgefortz, especially with his loss of his quote unquote daughter and him trying to redeem himself. He feels less confident. It's kind of like when I watched Thor, when he didn't kill Thanos and he was going through this so it's the same thing. So there's emotion, there's depth there, but it's not hard.
He's traumatized, and and Geralt of Rivia being traumatized in that world or post after that, it's a kind of strange thing. Like I saw some people saying, "Oh well, he's not hardly in the season," and again, if you've read the book, you know that Geralt, there are multiple point of view characters, and Geralt doesn't appear as much after that. I mean, he appears as you see him in appearing in the season, but it's about these other characters too. It's about what the witches are, what the sorceresses are doing, and creating the lodge. That's Philippa Eilhart, not Yennefer, but they wanted to give Yennefer more in the show, so that's understandable. She's the lead actress. You have to, that's what people don't understand. Like you have to take her story, the one from Philippa, who is a supporting character, and give it to the leading character. This story is about 3 people, Geralt of Rivia, Yennefer of Vengerberg, and Cirilla of Cintra. Those are the three main protagonists of the story.
I will say
the same in the books.
The only knock I had, and that's just because of me, there's a lot of characters that, because I was so far removed from watching season 3, I was like, man, who is this character? I had to look it up. I was like, oh, okay, this is who this is. Some of them rung a bell because one, I am probably 2.5, 3 years from playing The Witcher 3 and over a year watching last season's Witcher. And I was just like, damn, I do extra homework. It's not a bad thing. It's just, that's on me. It's a lot of characters you're introduced to.
Hey, it's a fantasy world. Fantasy worlds typically have lots of characters with lots of names and titles that
I was like, who
that are hard to pronounce.
Who is this? Who is this witch? Where is she? I was like, okay. And then I started to get caught up. So,
and so I guess another question that comes to mind is, do you feel, to Cam's to the point that Cam just made, do you feel like the 2-year layoff? I mean, it seems like all shows are doing multiple year layoffs and holdovers to make the show. Do you feel like a 2-year layoff dimmed any of the momentum that the show had previously? I mean, between losing Cavill and then 2 years in production,
it doesn't feel like it. To be honest, just sitting as an audience member, like, it felt like any other show that goes from its 3rd season into its 4th season. The only difference is we have all of this pre-premiere activity that is going on, between Cavill leaving, Liam Hemsworth stepping into the role, and then the 2-year gap between the 3rd season and the 4th season. And the 3rd season was very maligned, partially because they did that really silly thing of releasing it in 2 parts, which didn't make any sense. And they didn't do it like 4 and 4. It was like 5 or 6, and then the last 2 or 3 episodes. It was a very silly strategy, and it was like a 2-week wait before they released them. So a lot of it, there was a lot of burned bridge at the end. So of season 3, because people knew Cavill, that was his last season, because it was announced before season 3 premiered, which I thought was a kind of a silly thing to do. I would have saved that until after season 3 had already premiered, because then at least it wouldn't have felt as like, oh man, this is it. Like, you're watching the whole time knowing that you have to willingly suspend this disbelief of the transformation of Geralt looking like this to looking like this over here. So just a really bad strategy.
And just a quick to not is so it actually was a month later. They dropped the first 5 episodes of season 3, waited a month, and then they did the last 3, which is silly.
Yeah.
And like it was just really silly. Dumb. Like they didn't make no sense.
I think a couple things could happen here where by doing that, people could hate watch and be like, I'm gonna watch this because I want to know how bad it is. Or they could be curious and be like, this is a new actor. Let's see if this guy can hold up the mantle that Cavill did. But if it did lose viewership because of the announcement, what potentially might happen if the show is decent or good, the word of mouth will spread and people be like, hey man, watch this Witcher new season. It's not bad, bro. Hemsworth is okay. Boom, more views.
I liken it to when the Spartacus actor passed away. When the lead actor for Spartacus passed away, there was all this back and forth on should the show even continue because he was so good and such an integral part. And Liam McIntyre stepped in for Andy Whitfield, and I mean Andy Whitfield was made for that role, and I feel like he went out on may he rest in peace. He went out on a high note. Like that was the role for him. He was born to play that role. And Liam McIntyre was cool. He was all right, but at least as far as I know, the story was so compelling that people continued to watch and at least gave him a shot.
Can I say
there wasn't? Good.
I was going to say. When he left, or because of his health concerns, I was like, oh, that sucks. But I'm going to still watch anyway because this is that good. right? Like,
Yeah.
I was,
He
I
also-
didn't care. I
The
didn't care about
story
the
carried
left-
it. The story
He
carried it
also
so
left
hard.
after. He also left after the first season, and that's different than after 3 seasons in.
True, fair,
and
fair
then
point.
and then changing the actor. It's similar
That's
in
a
the
very good
same
point.
idea that we're supposed to. I see these characters as the same person, right? So, but this was more controversial with The Witcher because of Cavill's sort of being. He was more than just a performer.
He was integral.
He was involved. He had already been fan casted even before the show had even been pitched.
And it's definitely not apples to apples, like you say. I wasn't trying to.
No.
No.
I know. I'm just
go for it like that.
No. I got. That's why I said it's a good comparison. It's just worth noting that these fans had a much rougher kind of transition, but I think ultimately,
agreed.
The Witcher, what people have to reconcile with themselves if they're going to watch is all adaptations change things, and it's not like they're asking us to watch for another 5 seasons. We know that it's going to end with a 5th season. So this is something that has always been a kind of tightly told story. They cut out a whole lot, but they also maintain the sort of essence of Geralt in Ciri's journey. So I don't know what that leaves them, but I think the general audience will continue to like it. But I think those fans of the game and those fans of the books, diehards, will hate it forever.
Yeah, and I would say the other thing too, and Cavill actually noted this, and this is what I actually saw in this season, was Jaskier and Geralt were like more like homies now. Like the previous seasons, they're kind of like they're like reluctant friends, but in this season with Liam and them, the bond of them is a little bit better, and it's kind of reflected more in the books. Like in the books, they like what I've read,
they're actually friends,
more like homies. Yeah, they're actual friends. Yeah, where
there isn't a period where he's not cool with Jaskier. He talks about when he first met him, but in the story, in all of the stories, they're very close, and that was one of the strange things about the first season. I'll admit that, which was the depiction of Dandelion, which is what he is in my head. But Jaskier in the show.
That's what I know from the game. Dandelion.
Yeah. And Cavill actually talked about that too, where he was like, that was one thing that was a little, for him, that was annoying, because in the books, their bond is like, they're like blood brothers, right? That's their homies. They talk to each other all the time. And in the show, it took about 3 seasons for them to finally be like, this is my homie that I talk to about my close confidant. And in the first 3 seasons, they were the writers chose to highlight their adversity and their differences a lot more. Where I think in this one, and it works because Liam and Jaskier have a better have a kind of like a cool bond in this season, which I thought was really cool. And I'm glad that they brought that part out. That actually helped. And to Baby Hemsworth's credit, he did a good job of kind of melding that. I was going to ask also, how did you like Ciri in this tranche of the seasons, seeing how her growth has been for pretty, it's very deliberate. And then now she's with the rats and she's kind of doing that thing. Do you feel like it felt true to how the book was, or like the same kind of sentiment?
Well, yeah, I think so. Just now we'll get into some specific stuff about the season. Ciri at the beginning of this season and at the end of last season is lost. She in the books and in the show, there's an event called the Thanad Coup, and that's basically when the mages all convene. This is after Nilfgaard has already started invading all of the northern kingdoms, but they were halted. And we saw that in the show. They were defeated. Nilfgaard was they were basically stalled in Sintra. And so then the mages met, and what we find out is that Vilgefortz and several other mages were actually working with Emperor Emir the entire time. And so they were deliberately undermining their efforts to stop him and making sure that the Brotherhood fell. That was what Vilgefortz was doing. And so at the end of season 3, as Geralt and Ciri are leaving Thanad Island, they're confronted by Vilgefortz, who wants Ciri, who wants her power. And Geralt and he fight. It goes horribly bad for Geralt. I mean, really bad. So to the point where, again, because of Geralt, who he was and who he's been, Vilgefortz is a mage. So it's like all of the mages he had encountered up until that point, you wouldn't think none of them could stand toe to toe with Geralt. And that's the same in the books as in the show. But Vilgefortz is not any ordinary mage. He was trained as a druid. He was a mercenary. He basically has all the different levels of sorcery in that world that are possible. He's mastered. And so when he fights Geralt in the book, it's implied that he's not using magic, and yet he's as fast as a witcher. But ultimately, and in fact, Geralt only saw in that fight one opportunity to attack him and actually land a blow. And when he tries, he misses. And that's when Vilgefortz puts him down. And so after that, Ciri, in the show, happens in the show, Ciri runs to Tor-Lara, which is a tower of the Gauls, and it's a beacon of a great power. And so Vilgefortz chases her there, and she somehow manages to open a portal with just her raw primordial power, and she slips through to a whole nother part of the continent, like a whole other part. And Vilgefortz gets all messed up. Half of his face gets burned and his eye gets junked up. And so they pick up with season 4 in the next book with Ciri having come across these characters called the Rats, who are basically these thieves, and they're like prowling the continent while Nilfgaard and the Scoia'tael, which are the elves, they're all fighting, and the northern kingdoms are fighting. And she takes on the identity of Falca. She calls herself Falca, and of course, Falca has been mentioned in the show as being an elven princess who basically lit the continent on fire. She basically was a warlord, basically. But that's what humans tell of her. And so in that whole thing is her kind of coming of age, because this is the first time where she's on her own. And so they do a good job in the show of depicting that when she says always lost, never found, that's kind of the inverse of the thing that her, Yennefer, and Geralt always say to each other, never lost, always found. So now she's saying always lost, never found, because she thinks that Geralt and Yennefer are likely dead, or even if they're not dead, they think that she's dead because she's nowhere to be found. And so slowly but slowly she becomes a part of this group, and they're just like a gang of bandits. She becomes close to Missile, who's basically becomes her like lover. And so I saw some controversy about that. Yes, her and Missile get it on in the books too. So Ciri definitely has her lesbian relationship in the book as well. But it all ends really bad, and you see it at the end of this season. It really ends terrible for them. They commit some crimes, and they end up making a lot of noise, and as a result, they get this character called Leo Bonhart put on.
I was about to ask about him. Who the heck is this dude? Because he looks like he can fight.
Played brilliantly by Sharto, what's his name? District 9.
Oh, that's him?
Yes. Is it Sharto?
Wow, I didn't realize that was.
Somebody tell me his name. How do you pronounce his name?
Keep talking. I got you.
But anyway, yeah, tell me how you pronounce his name. But anyway, he plays Leo Bonhart, and Leo Bonhart is a character I've been looking forward to for a long time, because he is the probably the worst of all the Witcher villains.
Sharlto Copley.
Sharlto Copley. Yes, yeah. He does excellent as Leo Bonhart. So Leo Bonhart in the books is a bounty hunter of great repute, and he's the cousin of this noble merchant called I think his name is Haga Novel. It's something hard to pronounce, but actually Yennefer referenced him in the last season, so we may see him in the next season. But Bonhart basically is put on the rats. They want them gone and taken out. He ends up finding out or deducing that there's something different about Falca, and so he specifically wants to fight her. And so he sets up a trap. They fall into it. They get there in the show. I can't remember how it worked in the book. I think in the book she leaves them, I think the same in the book, and then finds out that Bonhart is setting a trap for them, and then they fall into the trap, and Bonhart just does them in really, really bad, something bad. But I skipped over one important character thing about him. Bonhart is reputed for having killed, as he claims, at least 2 Witchers. Now, in the books, this is highly dubious and most likely not true. See, in the show, and this is something I did not like, in the show, they had the first scene we see him in is him having lured a Witcher with a contract. The Witcher gets there, and Bonhart's got all these Witcher medallions, and he bests the Witcher, no problem. And so the reason I have a problem with that is because in the book, it's more implied. He says he's killed these Witchers, but we don't see him ever fight a Witcher. In fact, he doesn't even fight Geralt. And so I always deduce that as the author saying this guy uses that as a reputation builder, but he's never faced it, because he could have found those medallions. They're everywhere. Everywhere a Witcher might have died, they're everywhere. My guess is that he had an encounter with a Witcher. Either he snuck up on the Witcher while the Witcher was fighting someone else and got the drop on him, or he caught the Witcher as he was dying and killed him and took his medallion. But I seriously doubt that he could take on a Witcher in the manner that they're showing on the show, because Witchers are mutants and they have magic. Everything is enhanced: speed, strength, everything. So even
a normal human wouldn't be able to do it.
Even the fastest human would struggle to keep up swordplay with a Witcher. That's only reason Vilgefortz could is because he may not have been using magic, but like all mages, he is enhanced by magic. So that enhances all his abilities. So those are the things that if I'm a book reader and I see that, I'm saying that goes against canon, even the canon that you've established on the show.
Yeah, I was like, when did humans start going toe to toe with a Witcher? And I was just like, I've watched some of the animation of how we watch Vesemir when he was young and how they train a Witcher in training. I was like, these dudes are like superhuman before they take the medicine. They training them really crazy.
Yeah.
And then
they're sorcerer warriors. They're wizard warriors. They're not
Paladins.
Just the average. Yeah, they're the typical sorcerer knight or whatever, the warrior who yields magic. That's what they are. And so when I saw that scene, I was like, as much as I love the actor, I like because I like the way he's costumed with the raggedy white hair and the kind of droopy black, because he's supposed to be a foil, an inverse of Geralt. And you'll see that even more next season as how he treats Ciri with her as his captive.
In that scene, I thought he was like the monster that was just going to transform into something crazy. And, he has some like monstrous power that really catches a Witcher off guard, because I was like, why is the medallion not vibrating? But can I segue real quick? So my impressions of Regis is from the game. I know he's in the books, Blood and Wine expansion, and in the game they're friends. My question about that: why doesn't a vampire is a monster? Why didn't we get any indication? We just had the implication, and I knew the backstory already, so I knew he's a vampire. But like, if the vampire is a monster, quote unquote, why wasn't Geralt's chain like vibrating? Is there something about that type of creature that doesn't give off like, hey, we should be fighting them?
So
I was gonna ask
vampires in the books and in the lore, because that's addressed in the books. When Regis finally does, because it kind of happens similar to it does in the show, but vampires, especially one like him, are extremely powerful, and their magic is kind of beyond what the conventional wisdom witcher's abilities is shielded against. They do have the ability to fight a vampire and win, but the older the vampire and the more elder, the more tougher it is for them, and most of the time that's a losing fight. They're vampires. So Regis has the ability to make himself not make his presence not come off as magical as and like Geralt not sense him with the medallion. So he can kind of tamper down his supernatural presence, if you will.
So in this lore, the vampire can walk through the daytime.
Yes, that's in that lore, vampires move during the day. Yeah.
So in the game, I never saw Regis in the daytime. It was always night. So I was just assuming he falls in the same category as all the other traditional vampires of moving at night. And he did break some stereotypes made by the humans in that world about what can and what cannot happen with the vampire, which you tend to believe, because she was like, "Can I put onions and garlic?" He was like, "Nah, that's not gonna help you." Plus, he was like, "I'm an older, higher vampire." But my second question is,
I love the way he worded that. Like, no, that's not gonna help you. Like, if I really wanted to pop off, there's not many things y'all can do to stop me.
So the cool thing about this vampire is that he had a traumatic experience, which makes his character more compelling to humans who are, I guess, doing righteous, and he tested them by giving them the mandrake and whatnot. But the thing is, though, when did Geralt know he was a vampire? Like, what was the giveaway? Because Geralt was like kind of suspicious after the drink, but then he kind of knew, like, okay.
I think then we start seeing stuff. I think Geralt always sensed there was something odd about him. I mean, they found him in the cemetery.
Yeah.
When he's a barber surgeon, he's hanging out in the cemetery. Like, that's odd, even in that world. So Geralt always assumed that there was something odd about him. But remember, this is Geralt was never he was never a swing sword first, ask question later. And he has always understood the difference, the true subtlety of what makes a monster. Because remember, he said that even sometimes humans are the worst monsters. So Geralt at this point doesn't just assume that just because a creature is a certain creature that they are necessarily a monster. He is the most nuanced in that thinking.
Well, I was just wondering, like, when did he know he wasn't a human? Even though he knew something was off, but a vampire is a distinct, quote unquote, creature that, has all these powers, where he didn't feel like he had to tell his friends. Like,
I can't remember when in the book exactly what moment he says that he knew it, but the implication is that he understood that Regis was something somewhere earlier than when Regis reveals it. Like, he knew, but he was keeping an eye. But again, it's supposed to speak more about Geralt's character at that point.
How was Lawrence Fishburne as Regis, by the way? Like, how was his performance? Because I know that there was a little bit of a to do with his faux British accent. So
it actually wasn't. It wasn't British. That was
No.
my bad. I said that because it sounded like that in the
It did. It sounded like that in the trailer. Yeah.
in the trailer, but no, it's just more of a refined. It's Lawrence Fishburne doing
It's
Lawrence
Othello
Fishburne
as a vampire, bruh. It's fine.
Oh, okay.
Like
I
it's
missed
really
that.
just his refined articulation and enunciation. Very refined voice. Like that's
Hey,
pretty
okay.
much.
So he didn't do the non-regional diction thing then.
Yeah, no, it's Larry Fishburne that just speaks very well.
Lawrence to you, sir.
Larry.
But Regis as a character, Regis one of my favorite characters, and Lawrence Larry played him really well. And I thought that if you wanted a character that could play a kind of regal vampire, someone who has lived for a long time, but also shows that wisdom in how he moves and how he interacts with these characters who are centuries younger than him, and how he joined, the manner in which he joins Geralt's company, because Geralt's company is a group of people who probably shouldn't be in the same company. You even have Cahir, who is the Black Knight to Ciri, and that's one of my favorites from the book, and I'm glad that they kept that, because when Cahir is following their party, several times he stops and Geralt almost kills him, and they have to stop him, and that happens throughout that book until they get to a good moment where Cahir is like, "Look, I told you before, if you want to kill me, I'm not gonna try to stop you, but you are not gonna stop me from trying to help Ciri, because I now know that I made a big mistake in trying to help Emir do what he's planning on doing, do what he's trying to do." So, and they kind of came to that revelation way different than in the books too. So
yeah, they had a moment where he was like, "You gonna kill me, but I was not gonna stop." He had the little knife, and then it just stopped. So I was like, "All right, cool."
And I think that was cool too.
No, I mean the reveal about but I was talking about the reveal about Emperor Emir and his plans for Ciri and his relation to Ciri.
Yeah, and I think that was a cool way to kind of like to show that aspect of that redemption arc too. All right, so then wrapping all the way everything up, like now that season 4 dropped, it fanfare and ratings wise, we'll never know because it's Netflix. They just give ghost numbers and then just do whatever. Do you think it'll be a good wrap up in the season 5? Because like if they are combining 2 books. And I think it's supposed to be same 8 episodes again too. I don't think they're expanding it or anything. So it's like it's going to be an interesting thing where like you think they'll be able to wrap it up together where it comes to like a satisfying conclusion.
Yeah, I mean, so there's 2 big things that are supposed to come that I don't know right now how they do that in 8 episodes. So the first thing is that after Ciri sort of wrestles her way away from Bonhart, she ends up with a unicorn who then, using both her powers, they go to a different dimension, a different sphere. Okay. And it is there where they learn the true nature of the Wild Hunt, which is the Wild Hunt. And they've kind of wrecked this with how they did what they done with Richard Blood Origins, and also by not differentiating that there are 2 different types of elves in that world. There's the Anshi, who are the more common ones that look like human, and then there are the Anel. The Anel are the ones who are the Wild Hunt. That's Aridin. That's Gales from, who I'm talking about from the game. And so the Anel, they are like the dark elves from mythology. They don't look more like, they're tall. They have the high cheeks. Avalok, that's another one. And Avalok and so Lara Doran. And so they didn't make that distinction. So in that next part of the story, when Ciri goes and she ends up in the dimension of the Anel, she meets King Oberon. She meets Avalok. And so she learns that they've been going to war with the unicorns because they're stealing the unicorns' natural power to travel between dimensions. And the Wild Hunt they got it wrong. Remember, you heard a character say it's an omen that means war. Well, actually, the Anel were using the wars that were happening to enter that dimension and kidnap humans and take them back and make them slaves. And so they are the ones most interested in Ciri because of the Elder Blood. They want to capture her and bring her to Oberon so that he can mate with her. Everybody wants to mate with Ciri. Everybody wants everybody wants Ciri. Oberon wants her. Vilgefortz wants her. Emir, her own father, wants her. Like everybody wants Ciri. Everybody wants to extract that power to move between space and time. And so that's the whole thing, is like they
power.
Right. So yeah. So again, so I don't know how they get there, because Blood Origins had Eridan in some weird left off in some weird place, and they are sort of depicting the Wild Hunt as demons, but they're just elves. They're very powerful elves, but their armor is more smoke and mirrors than it is like, because when Eridan takes off his helm, he's big, but Geralt can handle him. He's not like that. He's just very powerful. So the game gets it right. I don't know how the show is gonna show us that, because that's really the extent of the Wild Hunt in the books. There isn't no big battle or anything like that. We learn that they've been kidnapping humans and they want Ciri, and that's pretty much it. And they've been at war with the unicorns. So
yeah, I gotta finish this game now. So much stuff to do.
Can I say something quick about the game? The game came out in 2015. It is one of the greatest open world games that ever came out on console. If you haven't played it, it is the reason why people were upset at Cyberpunk 2077, because it's from the same company on its release. Now, Cyberpunk 2077 has become the game that we all expected of a what is the CD Projekt Red company game. Mm-hmm. And I was mad at myself for having The Witcher in my backlog for like 2 years. Played it and I couldn't put it down because
same here. I had it in my backlog for about 2 or 3 years. Finally got same story. Played it, couldn't put it down. I was upset that I hadn't played it when rode the hype. But it's a brilliant game. The score is amazing. It has one of the best scores ever, like when you're playing the game and even when you're just at the pause menu, when you go from different places on the map, the score changes and it's different and idiosyncratic to that place or culture.
I will say this too. This is one of the few games that your decisions do change the outcome of certain situations. Yes. And it can be the smallest detail that you do early in the game that comes back to maybe bite you in the butt 80 hours later. You're like, hold on.
Especially your relationships with Ciri, Yennefer, and Triss. Yep. But especially for your relationship with Ciri. Because the way you treat her could determine whether or not the world is saved, or if it's crazy. And I didn't know that until like I was always doing the whole father-daughter because it just seemed natural. Like I was like, why would he treat Ciri bad? Like after all the stuff they've gone through, why would he just be dismissed? So I always got the right ending. I'm always curious about the Nilfgaardian ending, but I just can't bring myself to do that one.
Yeah, so there's a lot of endings, but long story long, the game is worth playing even to this day. If you haven't played The Witcher 3, definitely 100%. Play it.
My recommendation is read the books and then play the games, because it is a great. The books are you can't play Witcher 1 and 2; they're just not available right now. But Witcher 3 is kind of like. Is like a direct sequel to the books. Like I wouldn't even. I think you can even ignore a lot of the stuff that happens.
And actually, they're remaking The Witcher, the very first game.
Yeah, I heard
remaking it
about
onto the
that.
Unreal Engine, so that could be an interesting thing as well. But go ahead, Cam.
I will say this: in the beginning of the game, when you start to play the game, there are things you have to answer that are related to the first and second game that I had no clue of.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And I was like, I'm just guessing. Now it doesn't have any real crazy outcome, but there is a lot of context missing by the questions you're being asked as soon as you start the game and create your Geralt. And you're like, okay, this is what's going to happen. But it's literally tied into the first and second game. Characters and NPCs that you was like, what? If you never played Witcher 1 and 2, you're like, I don't know who these characters are, but they're directly connected to the previous games or the books, if you're familiar with that.
Well, and Yennefer and Ciri aren't in the first two games.
No,
And
but
they're referenced, they're talked about, but they don't actually appear. And one of the characters, King Foltest, is the king in question that where I think in 2 where it's like assassin of kings or whatever it is, and so Foltest was a big character in the books. So they move further into reconcile the Wild Hunt. I think that was what they were really trying to build to, is get back to the whole or Wild Hunt thing, because it was one of the unresolved aspects of the novel.
Yeah, and that was a DLC actually, right? There was the Wild Hunt was a DLC add-on to the game for Witcher 3, and then now 4 comes out 2027, late 26, if that, but it's centering around Ciri and meant to be a trilogy.
So
no. Wild Hunt was the title of the game. They added some DLCs, but Wild Hunt is the focus of the game. Having to deal with the Wild Hunt.
Yeah. The Wild Hunt is the focus of the game, but Blood and Wine was the DLC.
Blood and Wine, that's what it was.
Yeah.
That's where Regis returns in Blood and Wine. That's where Geralt first reunites with Regis after the end of what happens to Regis in the book. And so that's why Geralt is surprised when he sees Regis in the Blood and Wine expansion.
Heart of Stone and Blood and Wine were the DLC. The Wild Hunt is the actual base game.
Yeah, that was the base game. Yep. All right. Well, yeah, I think again, Witcher, like the Witcher world has always been super interesting. Even like I've even watched the Witcher like bestiary that they did where they talk about all the monsters and how they did it. Like that was super interesting. So like the world itself and the world building is just such a fascinating situation. And I'm glad that it's, even with the change that it has for season 4, it's still entertaining. I'm still watching it. I'm in it. I'm not like, I don't feel like I got taken out of it or anything like that. So I'm glad that it kept that kind of level. And I'm curious to see how they're going to wrap it all up. But I gotta finish the rest of the books. I've done the first 2. I haven't done the other ones. But it's been like you said, it's a fun world. It's one of those fantasy worlds that's not too hard to follow. It's a very kind of simple story. You know, one of the great things about the video game is that it does really expand well on Sapkowski's his original story, and you get a lot more out of those those 3 characters, Geralt, Ciri, and Yennefer. So yeah, this will be I think they'll finish. I think it's smart what they're doing to go ahead and finish in season 5. They probably should just add a few more episodes so they're not shortchanging some of the stuff that I mentioned, because it would be, I don't know how they get, unless they have a whole nother plan of ending it. You don't get, I don't know if you guys got to so you saw that they were telling stories, and I don't know if you got to the whole Nimue Lady of the Lake thing, but that's a big important motif or device that we'll see how they pull it off. They introduced it. We'll see if they can stick that land.
That's in the game though, right? There's a side quest, the Lady of the Lake, I think.
So it is, but so in the book, and I just say, because I don't think it'll be a while. So in the book, what ends up happening is Ciri leaves. She now knows how to use her power, and she leaves that sphere. And what happens is she ends up in she ends up in another sphere and she meets a certain knight named Galahad. And so basically it ends with her being, and Galahad sees her where? On the lake where she lands. And so basically it's another fantasy story that pivots back to our real. So basically saying that
Arthurian.
epoch of the continent and all that stuff
Right.
may have influenced the Arthurian legends and all that stuff.
Mhm.
So basically, it's implied that Ciri married Galahad for a time, and that she spent some time in Arthur's kingdom, and she may have even been like she may have been some of the other figures of magic that we the legends that we know. But that's kind of where he leaves it. He just kind of like you're like she goes to a new sphere and she's like, huh, where is this? And kind of looks like where I just came from. And then she sees this knight and she talks to him and he's like, yes, I am Sir Galahad of the round table, you know. So it's like that. And then they ride and she's like, huh, you know, I think I might like it here. And then boom, boom. And then in the end, it's like,
so how many in an ideal world, how many episodes would you think it would take to wrap it up based on what they have planned?
I mean, I you got 2 books. If you're gonna X out a good chunk of the storytelling, and they can, there's a part where they might do away with where Ciri spends some times with a very old mage who everyone thought was dead but was still alive. So they probably will cut that out. They might not let her spend as much time being tortured by Bonhart. That's like a very big thick chunk of that book, and it goes on. I mean, he takes her from like town to town, and like it's I don't see them going as far with that because it might just be too hard for them to show all of that brutality being inflicted on. It's the whole woman. We got enough violence against women in TV, so I think getting it over the point that yes, he bested her. Yes, he kind of murdered her friends and made her watch it, and you know did all these nasty things to her. I could see it maybe going on for a couple episodes and then they get to that. So at most I would say 13, but you know, if they really want to do it justice, then just do 2 parts and do like 16.
Yeah, I could see that. I could definitely 2 parts of 8 will make more to wrap a lot of things up. All right.
Okay.
Well,
that makes sense.
Well, that was Witcher season 4 plus video game plus books, put them all together because I think it was great and important that we add that context for where this show is going because a lot of people haven't read the books, but the people that have certain gripes that are justified, unjustified, doesn't really matter. But you basically have a sense, even if you played the game and even didn't beat it, you still have a good sense of where the show is going and what they're trying to show. And I think that for me, that was the part that like I read the first 2 books. I played the game, haven't beat it, but also watching it, I'm still entertained in it. D, you want to get that final word?
I was just gonna say one thing, and that is if you still just like sword fighting and magic using and you know monster slaying, it still hits all those things. It does all those things still well. And Liam for all whatever people feel, he still has the footwork in terms of the choreography. He ain't as good. He's not as good as Cavill, but Cavill is kind of a special animal when it comes to how he is. But Liam, from what I saw, still looked decent, and overall, it's still a fun monster mash magic and all the hits of the greatest hits of fantasy and all that stuff.
Yeah, I was gonna say read the books because it's gonna be quicker than you playing the game.
Yeah, basically, 100%.
Pretty much. I mean,
yeah. Because I read the first 2, which were super fun and enjoyable and like a quick read. But
that bestiary matters in that game, man. You have to read that bestiary. If you have to, I fought Jenny of Old Woods for like who is like a wraith. I fought her. She's a contract. I fought her for like 2 or 3 weeks, not realizing that I was using the wrong sign. I had to use. I was using the wrong sign. She was giving me the 2-hit death.
Hey,
like,
and before we get off that, we saw him use the right magic in the show for Ray.
Yes.
Yeah, he did. It shows the level,
the right sign. Yep.
And it just shows the levels of that game because like and it was funny because when I first started playing, you guys both warned me. They're like, "Yo, you could not do the main story for like hours on end and just
for a whole year.
Side questing yourself, and yeah, you could literally just be in the world for a year and not even touch the main story, and that could be the game itself. That's how big and massive.
There's still like a whole thing of monster contracts from my original game that I haven't done. Like there's so many monster contracts. That's why you could just literally go do monster contracts, go search for like crazy armor, like hunt down legends, solve little disputes. Like there's so much you can do in that game and still not touch the main quests.
There's a side quest where I found out Vizimir has a former lover in that game, and it's a small side quest. And
I never got to that side quest because I never Vizimir. I never because Radovich is the king in of Redania in that, and so Vizimir was his dad. So I never got to anything that mentioned Vizimir from what I could remember, other than the stuff with Radovich.
Yeah, so Vizimir, it's a small, and I'm gonna be quick. It's a small side quest that if you do not pay attention, you can pass. It's not even a major side, it's just a small one, but there's a couple lines of dialogue where a certain character reminisces about their former lover, and it's Vizimir. And Geralt is like, huh? Like, oh, okay. I got a little insight.
Wait, it's a dude or is it?
No, it's a woman. It's a woman. Okay. It's a character that you can have more dialogue with if you make the right choice, and if you do the wrong choice, then it's like you'll never get that dialogue.
Yeah, there's a few different like Philippa talking about Vilgefortz and like all that stuff. Like they talk about the events of the books like in natural regular dialogue.
Dude, that's crazy. But yeah, no, it's if nothing else, go read the books, go play the game, go watch the show, or it's like a cosign for all of them because it is a good time. Like you said,
it's fun. It's
just fun sword and sorcery. Sword and sorcery in these trying times, this is a perfect type of thing to kind of get into. But once again, thanks everybody for listening.
Great.
Thanks once again for rocking with us. Like, subscribe, do all the notifications and all your goodness. And yeah, man, we out.
Later.